Welcome back. It is the Vegas Take Sharp and Shapiro. A reminder, we are going to continue this conversation with this new law in Alabama that was just passed as far as abortion goes. We will continue this discussion tomorrow, and boy, is it going to get heated. Boy, is it going to be an interesting discussion because this guy is he's way on the right. He would admit that. Danny Tarkanian will be in studio tomorrow, and we will be debating the issue of abortion with him. And I promise you, folks, I'm not going to be easy on him, and it will be a very, very, very entertaining discussion, I am sure, and an interesting one at that. So Danny Tarkanian tomorrow as we start the show will be joining us, and that's where we will continue the discussion. We can't take more calls on that. We have to move on. As you know, or maybe you don't, we got a big golf tournament starting tomorrow. It is the PGA Championship, and what better person to have with us on the line than the golf guru himself, Dennis Silvers. Dennis, thanks for coming on. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me again.
Sure.
What's up, Dennis?
You got it. Okay, so I want to start with this, Dennis, before we actually talk about the PGA Championship. I find this story very interesting. So the last person to use a cart on the PGA Tour was Martin. Do you remember him? He was
Casey Martin. Casey Martin. He's up in Oregon. I think still coaching the men's golf team up there. Yeah.
He's a good guy. I shouldn't say he was. He still is. He's a good guy. And he had a handicap where he struggled to walk, but he was just happens to be a fantastic golfer. And everyone was up in arms about what an advantage he had because he was in a cart. Well, he didn't make cuts. He didn't keep his PGA Tour card. So now we have John Daly. Okay, John Daly has a lifetime, I believe he has a lifetime exemption to playing the PGA Championship because he won it, right? And
right.
John Daly hasn't won a tournament since 2004, if I'm not mistaken. He hasn't made a cut in 4 years. And Tiger Woods at the press conference was asked about John Daly using a cart. The reason why John Daly is using a cart because he has really bad arthritis in his right knee, and he looks like 400 pounds of chewed bubble gum. John Daly does not take care of his body at all. I love the guy to death, don't get me wrong. But he's not exactly on the front of Fitness Magazine, and that's his fault. But he has arthritis in his right knee. So Tiger Woods at the press conference yesterday was asked about this, and his response was he kind of hesitated for a second. Then he said, I walked with a broken leg, So he's kind of mocking John Daly to a certain extent. I want to get your thoughts on this. My opinion is John Daly should be allowed to be in a cart. He's a fan favorite. He's got a hell of a better personality than Tiger Woods does. Yeah. He's a draw.
And he's good for golf.
Yeah, and we all know John Daly is not going to be in contention on Sunday afternoon. I don't think Tiger has to worry about John Daly. Why would Tiger respond like that? What is his issue with John Daly?
Well, I think it's, and I agree with you. He definitely should be there. He's a fan favorite, whether he's walking or whether he's in a golf cart or whatever. But I think you hit the nail on the head, Brian, when you said, look, the guy obviously doesn't take care of himself. He's super overweight. And, when people are overweight that much, it causes some problems and, aches and pains in the joints and, all this other kind of stuff. But I think he's got a right to be there. I think the committee made the right decision. And I think Tiger was kind of, letting them know, hey, man, I toughed it out in San Diego with a broken leg. Oh, you got this little arthritis in your right knee, but I still don't think you can make it around, John, because you're almost the size of a whale. So, you look at they're two diametrically opposed bodies, but I agree with you. John's certainly not going to be a factor. He's probably not going to make the cut, but he should be there.
And by the way, John Daly, speaking to the Associated Press, said that the whole thing stinks in regards to his right knee. He also said, Florida sends me a handicap sticker when I'm there. He said it's embarrassing. He said I can't walk more than 6 holes before the whole knee swells up, and then I can't go anywhere. This is a real thing. This is not... Look, it'd be one thing if somebody was trying to use this to their advantage as somewhat of an excuse. This is not the case with John Daly. And anyone who knows John Daly knows he would not just make this up to try to get an advantage. The guy lived on a diet of candy bars and soda his whole life, okay?
Yeah.
He would not be making this up to try to get some sort of advantage. And I did not like Tiger Woods' snide remark. Say what you want about John Daly. He's good for the game of golf. And, a lot of fans love to see him out there. He doesn't really play much competitive golf anymore. And I really don't like Tiger Woods' comment. Now, this sets a precedence, though, doesn't it? What if you're a diabetic? What if you're having troubles with your blood sugars? Should you be allowed to take a cart? Where is the line drawn here as far as being in a golf cart on the senior tour or the PGA Tour? Where's the line, Dennis?
That's a good question that you bring up, Brian, and I think this could open up possibly a Pandora's box with guys saying, "You're right, I'm diabetic. I get weak, I get dizzy, this and that and the other," and they're going to really have to, I think, look at the rules and really do a deep dive on this to see what they can allow or who they can allow to take a cart and who really needs to walk. And I think probably, Brian, the biggest reason that he wanted to take a cart, let's face it, it's so much easier cooling your six-pack, in a cart.
Right. It was definitely a beer-oriented decision. Beer was part of the equation. Brian, how do you feel about that? Back when you were playing college golf,
yes,
if the rules were more, were inclined for diabetic players, how would that have helped you back in the day?
150%.
And why?
Well, it's pretty simple. If your blood sugar is a little bit off, now keep in mind, back when I was playing college golf, you had to carry a golf bag, which is about 30 to 40 pounds. You're walking, okay? You're also in some temperatures that are over 100 degrees, sometimes more. So imagine doing that, and as a diabetic trying to maintain your blood sugars. Let me be very clear with this, okay?
And arguably the most concentrated hand-eye coordination-oriented game in the world.
And I was getting to this. So let me explain this to somebody who's not a diabetic. Imagine not eating all day. You feel a little weak, right? Maybe you're a little shaky, a little dizzy. Multiply that by 10 times. That's how a diabetic feels. Now let's go to the reverse side of it. Imagine, how do you feel as a non-diabetic right after you have a huge meal? Some people say, well, you're in a food coma, right? You're lying down, you're tired. Multiply that by 10 times. That's how a diabetic feels when their blood sugar is high. Now, take that into account and try to hit a golf ball 300 yards. You hit one bad shot on the PGA Tour, or for that matter, one bad shot playing college golf, your round is completely over. It's done. You hit one shot out of bounds. That could be the difference between having a good round and having a poor round. So, yes, I believe if you are a diabetic, I believe if you have arthritis, I believe if you have anything serious that can affect you hitting a golf ball, you should be allowed to take a cart, because it's not about walking to the next shot. That's not what golf should be about. It should be about hitting good golf shots. What puts you in the position to hit the best golf shots you can, and it's not your fault if you had those type of health issues, Dennis.
Right. No, I agree with you 100%, Brian. And that's why, the rules are so much more lenient that way on the PGA Champions Tour than they are on the regular PGA Tour. And again, I think the regular tour is going to have to reassess what the rule is and maybe start allowing for additional legitimate reasons that are substantiated with either doctors or surgeons or whatever. And it's going to be interesting. But like you say, I'm glad John's there. He's great to watch, but obviously he's not going to be a factor.
No, he won't be a factor, but I'm glad he's going to be out there, and I'm glad people like Tiger Woods don't make those type of decisions for him.
It just feels like Tiger wants a little bit of attention, doesn't it?
I don't think he wants attention. I just think he's an ass. That's what I think.
Come on. John Daly's what, 58, 59 years old. He hasn't placed in a major tournament since when?
Tiger's got bigger beef. He's got bigger things to fry in his life right now. How about his restaurant not over-serving someone and giving somebody 20 drinks and then they go out and kill themselves?
And it's possible that the restaurant actually hid evidence in that situation.
What do you make of that
destroyed
story?
evidence.
Dennis, before we go... go ahead.
No, I thought that was very interesting, and I was talking with somebody today, Brian and JB, about that, and I'm saying, do you think the fact that him and his girlfriend are getting sued for wrongful death is going to weigh on his mind at all during this tournament, and that might affect his play? And they looked at me and they said, what are you, crazy? He's not going to even think about it, for crying out loud. We don't know that for sure, obviously, but mark my words, this will never get to court. His attorney's going to make a phone call. Tiger's going to write a check and end the story. It's a tragic story, and there was supposedly video and evidence of the two of them sitting down with this guy, now and then, having a couple of drinks. And I found that odd, Brian, because maybe you could correct me. I don't ever remember somebody saying or say they saw Tiger Woods drinking alcohol. Do you?
I don't. So you're telling me, now I haven't heard this, so you're telling me that this 24-year-old young man who made a horrific decision of getting into his car, who was, by the way, all accounts, a raging alcoholic who had a huge alcohol problem. Yeah. You're telling me that Tiger Woods and his girlfriend knew him personally?
No, they hired the guy.
I did not know that. Wow.
They hired the guy. Absolutely.
Okay, so with that,
absolutely,
with that on top of everything else, I agree with you. I think eventually Tiger's just going to write this family a check. It's not going to bring this kid back. But the fact that they kept serving this guy over and over and over again to the point where he couldn't even barely walk out of the restaurant is disgusting. Yeah, you got to put the big responsibility on the young man who lost his life. He could have killed somebody else too. Thank God he didn't do that. But
right.
I agree with you. I think Tiger's eventually just going to write a check, and this story, unfortunately, is going to go away. And the reason why I say unfortunately is because, look, restaurants, bars, they have a responsibility. There are laws put in place for a reason. Yeah, if you're going to serve alcohol, you got to be responsible about it. Do not overserve somebody. Okay,
and that's why in the state of Nevada, if you work in that industry, if you're a barback, a bartender, you're a cocktail waitress, you have to take a class and you have to obtain a TAM card.
Right.
To recognize when somebody's getting a little blottoed and say, I'm sorry, but you're cut off.
Yeah, in a perfect world, you'd like everybody to drink responsibly, but as you know, when you get inebriated, if you do, sometimes you don't know what's going on. Sometimes you don't have control over your and look, that's your fault. You don't want to get to that point, but it happens. People are not perfect, and it's up to the restaurant owner or management to say, okay, we're going to get you an Uber. You cannot drive. Take the person's keys or call the police.
Right.
Yeah, one or the other.
Right.
Okay, so let's get to the PGA Championship, Dennis, and let's talk about some of the favorites and some of the long shots that you think have a chance possibly to win this thing. Obviously, let's start with Tiger Woods, okay? He's 8-1, which, again, I'm going to say is ridiculous. I would never bet on anybody to win a golf tournament at 8-1, but if I had to, I probably wouldn't take Tiger Woods in this one. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, you're not wrong in saying that, and let me just preface that by saying a couple of things. You know, Bethpage Black is a serious golf course. It is long. It's just a skosh under 7,500 yards. It's got an incredible slope of 155. So for people that are listening that may not be that attuned into golf, playing a golf course that has a slope rating of 155 is analogous to climbing Mount Everest. You know what I mean? It's that steep, and it's got a course rating, Brian, of a titch over 77.
Wow. That
and combine all of that, I mean, it's incredibly difficult. Number two, they expect some weather, whether it be, I think on Friday and Sunday, cold with a chance of rain, and I think that's going to eliminate half of the field right there, number one, because of the weather. And even if they didn't have weather there, Brian, I think half of the field is eliminated because if you're not a bomber on that golf course, your chances are slim and none to win, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. So, and what I've heard about this golf course, the greens are fairly small. It's a ball striking golf course. So a guy that hits the ball long and straight probably going to win this thing, but I guess you could say that about many majors out there, right? So I look at a guy like Brooks Koepka. Okay, Koepka is around 10-1. He's one of the favorites. I'll tell you right now, I'd rather put my money on Koepka than Tiger Woods.
Well, I agree because Koepka is playing very, very good golf right now. Secondly, with Tiger winning the Masters, getting a lot of breaks and winning the Masters, but a win's a win. Okay, how hard is it to win a major, let alone go back-to-back and win two majors? It just doesn't happen. And I just don't think the odds are in Tiger's favor, especially if it is cold and rain. Tiger does not play good in cold or rainy weather. He just doesn't.
Well, that's because he's a wuss. That's why
he requires perfect conditions.
That's because he's high maintenance. That's why.
Dennis, give me a long odds dark horse in this thing.
Oh boy, that's a very good question. Who played last week, and I've always liked a lot. He's from where is he from? He's from India. Big roly-poly guy.
Lahiri? Not Lahiri.
No, Kiradech Gopi Barnrot.
Oh, okay.
He's got the length. He's got the game. He's playing good. I've said for years this guy has got to explode in a good tournament. I don't know what his odds are, but
he's 250 to 1.
Like but how much?
250 to 1.
Okay, there you go.
Well, I got John Daly at 1,000 to 1, so that's what I got.
But Bubba Watson 60 to 1. Why is that?
That's true. Bubba is 60-1. You know, here's another guy who is just no confidence right now. You know who probably I'm going to say? Jordan Spieth, right?
Jordan Spieth. Oh, George, he's. People are. I heard the most ridiculous thing the other day that there were when Jordan came out and he had that stellar year, 2-3 years ago. They're going, there's our next Tiger Woods. There's our next Tiger Woods. And I said, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, that's just completely ridiculous.
In at all.
No.
First is so. No. Far off the lot, it's ridiculous.
He doesn't hit the ball far enough. That's the bottom line.
He doesn't.
Not, in this day and age of golf, to be one of the best players in the world, you have to hit the ball at least 320, 330, 340 off the tee.
Absolutely
and
right, Brian.
Spieth has a magnificent short game. We know he's going to win more tournaments, and he'll probably win more majors, but in my opinion, he will never be the number one player in the world ever again.
I happen to agree with you, and I think right now with him, he says he's improving, he's getting better, especially with the short game of putting, but he has got demons, and I think that's the only thing that's screwing him up on the greens, really. He's so methodical and overthinking, and people have been saying that for a long time.
Yep.
And it's going to be interesting to see how long, guys, it takes for him to shake those demons and get back to being him.
Let's talk a little bit about Jason Day. If you ask me a guy, I wouldn't really call him a long shot because he's about 30-1 in most books.
Yeah.
But Jason Day has had a lot of success on Bethpage. He's had a lot of success on this golf course. I know he's not the best player in the world, but he used to be. He knows what it's like to win big golf tournaments. It seems like he is getting much back into form, and he's playing some better golf again. He's my guy that I look at and I say, wow, might not be a bad idea to put a couple bucks on Jason Day. He's had success here. He can win this tournament. And then I look at a couple other guys like a Patrick Cantlay, like a Tony Finau. These are guys that I think are due. They've been in contention in majors before. They certainly have the talent to win it. And it's just, for them, it's just about getting over the hump. Those are a couple guys, maybe not the biggest household names, but guys that are top 20 players in the world that I think can win tomorrow.
Well, I agree with you. I disagree a little bit with Cantlay, even though he's having a hell of a season. But you happen to mention the guy where my money's on to win this tournament, and that's Tony Finau.
Yeah,
he's got all the tools.
He hits the ball a long way.
He kills the ball.
And he's got a magnificent short game. He's an incredible athlete. As long as he doesn't sprain his ankle a couple days before a major, he'll be just fine. I remember he did that in the Masters a few years ago.
What about a guy like a Xander Schauffele? Doesn't he? He owns the long drive record of like 450 yards, doesn't he?
Who's Xander Schauffele?
Yeah.
I was not aware of that. I mean, he's obviously a fine player. I just personally don't see him in the mix on this. I wouldn't, think to bet him. But again, anything can happen, JD. And don't forget, all these guys are damn good. But there's certain things you have to have on a golf course like this to really up your percentage. And if you don't have them, I think you're going to be hitting head against the wall. Obviously, short game and putting anywhere, but you got to have the length. You got to keep it in the fairway on this golf course. And again, I think they haven't. This course has held 3-4 different big tournaments before, and experience is really kind of out the window.
Yeah.
I think you just got to look at the guys that are coming in that are kind of hot, that are playing good.
Speaking of hot, I'm glad you mentioned that because Dustin Johnson has a very hot wife in Paulina Gretzky. He is. Let me mention a few guys. Dustin Johnson, and I mentioned his trophy wife. Rory McIlroy is 12-1. Ricky Fowler, a guy we haven't talked about, is right there at 16-1. John Rahm, another one, 18-1 with Justin Rose. And then you have Molinari and DeChambeau at 20-1. Those guys that I just mentioned, is it fair to say that those odds are correct and those guys have a good shot to get this thing as well?
I do. And I think this one they pegged it pretty good. Again, there's ways that you can play, as you know, playing really, really good golf, not being the longest hitter in the world. And most of these guys, have that. They keep it in play. They've got a good short game. They have a good imagination, and that's what you need on any PGA Tour event, Brian. You know that.
Sure. No, absolutely. No doubt about it. Well, Dennis, it should be a lot of fun watching. Certainly this weekend, I hope it's good for golf if Tiger's in contention, but I'm going to be watching no matter what. It's always a fun Sunday afternoon watching the PGA Championship. Dennis, I always appreciate you coming on as always, my friend, the golf guru, Dennis Silvers. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot,
Hey,
Dennis.
my pleasure, guys, and have fun watching the tournament. And JD, good luck at. I read you're going to be a staple at the Aces, right?
Did he really say that?
I'm gonna try to attend quite a few Aces games. I think the Aces have a good shot to win it all this year.
All right.
In the WNBA, if they get that Cambage trade done, I've been
Brian. The bottom line is JD likes tall women. I mean, that's it.
No, actually, he's got a crush on a guard. He's got a crush on a point guard. But when he said he's going to be a staple, he did say that about UNLV basketball, and he went to like 2 games. So I'm going to give the over/under on how many games. All right, Dennis. Before we go,
I said that about deja vu, and I've only been there once.
Let's set the over/under on how many games that J.D. Sharp goes to. I'm talking Aces games. I'm going to put the over/under at 3.5. What do you say, Dennis? You take the over or the under?
I take the over.
I take the under.
Dennis, that's a wise wager, sir.
No, I think the Jets have more wins this year in the NFL than JD goes to games. That's what I think. But we'll have to.
We'll
have to wait and see what happens. Dennis, thanks for coming on, my man. Appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure.
All right,
guys.
Thanks a lot, Dennis.
Bye-bye.
He is the golf guru. Dennis Silvers covers the PGA Tour, has for years, and he does a fantastic job. He said it himself. His pick to win this thing is Tony Finau. Tony Finau is 30-1 to win the PGA Championship. If you put a gun to my head and you said, who are you going to pick? I'm going to go with Jason Day at 25-1. We hope it's a good tournament. We hope it's a good Sunday. What I mean by good tournament is you want the big names at the top of the leaderboard, and we hope we get there. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, this is going to be a lot of fun. Jamison Welsh from Drive Time Sports. He is our hoops guru. The Eastern Conference Finals, Game 1 going on right now between Milwaukee and Toronto. We will talk to him about that. And, of course, the Golden State Warriors in a battle in the Western Conference as well against the Portland Trailblazers. We'll get to Jamison Welsh when we come back right after this. You are listening to The Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN.